Let's call in the chair of Senate Appropriations. Senator? Republican State Senator Jim Stamas has his political roots in local government. He served as a township trustee and on the Midland County Board of Commissioners before serving 6 years in the Michigan House, where he was the majority floor leader. Then he was elected to the state Senate in 2014, where he chairs the Senate Appropriations Committee. He holds an associate degree from Delta College and his BA degree from Northwood University. Senator, welcome to the program. Have we dazzled you with our analysis here?
Absolutely.
None of it was true.
Bold statement. Bold statement.
Yeah, none of it true, right? Kyle, please.
All right. So, Senator, it's been a couple days since the budget presentation, so professional courtesy, you can cast the side here. The odds of a 45-cent gas tax increase passing the Senate is how many percent? 1, 10, 0? 1%? Why 1%? The door's open still.
Con, it's courtesy. I think that the roads do need to have additional dollars. 45 cents, making that 71 cents per gallon, $7 every time you fill it up. I think that's too much for our Michigan families, our seniors, our farmers. I think it would be devastating to our economy. So, but I think that the roads are a large expense that have gone decades without having seen the right amount of infrastructure investment. And so Governor Snyder put $1.2 billion on the table. Quite honestly, if you go back and look at his first cast when he talked about infrastructure and roads, it was actually closer to $2 billion. But we all picked up on 1.2 and ran with that. And
so what are some creative ideas that you can do? If not the gas tax, then what? What are some other ideas out there?
Well, there's a lot of different ideas. I don't know that I've heard the one that's going to happen. I think Senator Schmidt within the Transportation and the Senate Transportation Committee is going to take a hard look at what is that amount. Is it 2.5? Is it something? There's a lot of studies. I think that 2.5 is pretty close if we're actually going to be improving the roads. But Senator Schmidt and the Transportation Committee, I think, will look at that, and I look forward to hearing from them.
Would you support a plan to lower no-fault car insurance rates and take some of that money to help fix the roads in addition to a savings for motorists?
Well, I'm 100% supportive of lowering the no-fault auto insurance. How you directly attach that in dollars, I don't see how you put that together. I mean, but do we want to lower the auto insurance rates? Absolutely. But that's actually something that taxpayers are paying, or residents are paying to the insurers, not to the state of Michigan for the insurance itself.
You said $2.5 billion is a potential need target. Break that down for us. Is 2.5 a new money over what we're spending now, or do Senate Republicans view the $1.2 billion plan as the first half of that? What does 2.5 actually mean?
My perception would be that 1.2 it was the first part of it, and 2.5 is closer to what the number of investments. But that puts us close to $5 billion of infrastructure money going out towards roads with federal dollars.
So did you vote for the 2015 plan?
I did.
How is it that it's taken 4 years now to come to grips that you need 2.5 billion rather than 1.2 billion more per year?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand.
How has it taken so many years now for the legislature to kind of come around to the notion that you need more, north of 2 billion more, which has been said in several reports going back to the Granholm administration? What's changed? What dynamic has changed here now?
I think that we've seen the investment, we've seen the barrels out there, and we see that we have slowed down the deterioration of the roads, but we're not gaining on those roads. I think that as each new legislative session comes forward, that more and more of that part of the discussion has been put out to the public, and the public is also understanding where we're at as well.
If 45 cents is dead, what number is alive in your mind?
I don't have a number alive in my mind.
Are you really vote for a gas tax increase?
I have before, and I probably will look at some type of revenue as we move forward, but what that revenue is and how much is, I don't have that. I think Senator Schmidt in Transportation and the House will put forward something over the coming year.
What about the trucks? And should trucks pay more? The Mackinac Center just came out with a study that says that trucks put way more stress on the road than what truckers are actually paying for in taxes. Should they be paying a bit more?
Well, I think we have parity, and when we did the tax increase, we actually did increase the diesel fuel. Trucks are heavier. Trucks are carrying a lot of the economy up and down the roads that takes products to our families across the state. And so, but having a minimum parity with the trucking transportation is certainly something we need to continue.
You'd rather continue parity than charging truckers more?
I think they all have a balance, and it's one big balloon, and when you push on one side, you're pushing somewhere else on another side, and finding the right balance is an ongoing process.
Senator, the governor wants to pair the gas tax increase with an expansion of the earned income tax credit, which is something that conservatives in the past have favored because it incentivizes work, but that was scaled back in 2011 also under the Republican-led legislature and Governor Snyder. What do you make of that proposal to lessen some of the burden on whatever a potential gas tax increase might be?
I think the earned income tax credit is one that has been with us for a while. We brought it down to 6% versus, I think, almost 20% under Governor Granholm. And so it's certainly one of the priorities within the governor's budget, and it's certainly one of the conversations that we'll have. But where it ends up, I'm not sure at the moment.
But it's not dead.
I think it's certainly part of the discussion within the budget process. The governor, I think, was very courageous in coming out with her budget. I can't say that I agree with it, but at the same point, to come out with a 45-cent proposal on gas and the amount of almost $2 billion more in spending right off the top, I mean, that takes courage, and I respect that she is the governor, and we have to work
so much that you gave it 1% chance of passing.
I gave the 4 to 5 cents a 1% chance.
Another key issue from her budget that we've been talking about and hasn't gotten great reviews from the legislature is the idea of repealing the pension tax and paying for it by raising taxes on LLCs, S-corps, other pass-through entities. Why is it fair that those entities currently pay, or the income from those entities is currently taxed at 4.25% when other businesses in the state are taxed at 6%?
You know, 2011, I took a very tough vote. And believe it's a fairness tax. If you look at, as the governor says, 400,000 families in the state, when we have 10 million people and probably at least 5 million families that have some type of retirement, and the 401ks are being taxed. I think it was more of a fairness tax across Michigan's families. If you look at a government person that's retiring and getting 100% of that pension tax-free, and you have a single mom with a child with a 401k, well, she wouldn't be retired with a child, but you have a single lady with a 401k retirement. Why are we taxing her more than everyone else?
Well, why are we taxing some business income at 4.25% and some at 6%? Is that fair?
With the 4.25, then you have to actually add in the income that actually is on their income tax itself. And so we tax the business, but then their income is also taxed on their income tax as well.
No, pass-through entities is only paid at 4.25. The business doesn't pay a tax. It's exempt right now.
If you are a businessman who owns a tall building in downtown Detroit and you incorporate that building under an LLC, the income from that passes through and you pay 4.25% income tax on it. And the governor is proposing that you have to pay instead the 6% corporate income tax for running this, 10-story building downtown Detroit. Why should that? But if you're a business that's based in there, a corporation that's housed in that building, you have to pay the 6%. Why the difference in how we treat taxes for those two different companies?
I think as we look at the businesses that are paying those, and we look at the number of businesses and the family businesses across the state, 80% of the businesses across Michigan are family businesses. 4.25 on the income, which is the actual revenue coming into those families, is a fair tax. And a corporation that is incorporated and is held out to the public, I think the 6% was something that certainly simplified the tax code for us, and for them, but it is also a fair tax for the corporations as well.
Education lobby loves her budget. More money for schools. You on board?
I certainly have been a big supporter of education and would love to continue to add dollars, especially with closing the gap And how much that is, I don't know. But I certainly think that closing the gap, we're, what, $538 away from finally closing that from 1994 when we first started it with Proposal A. And so I would like to make sure that the local communities are picking the dollars with an increase in the base funding.
Was this a classic tax and spend Democratic budget proposal?
Absolutely.
He says with a smile.
The $500 million more for public education that's in this budget, it's reliant upon relieving the general fund of that money that you all have earmarked for roads, right? Doesn't her plan, doesn't her education funding plan kind of all link back to getting this big, huge gas tax increase?
Her budget does definitely count on removing those dollars and offsetting those parts of the dollars. But if you also look at the school aid fund and prioritizing that, I think that we continue to move forward prioritizing K-12, especially with the third grade education, early education. I think we've made substantial investments. We need that investment to bring our kids up. But getting to the base fund and allowing schools to make the local decisions, I think is an important part of that as well.
What about taking the money out of the school aid fund that goes to universities right now? That's a big part of her budget. She doesn't want the school aid fund to be used as kind of a slush fund where you can pay for universities. Is that a big priority for you? Do you care about that or not?
I don't know that the school aid fund is fund by any means, and or the dollars,
it's not a slush fund, but it's the emergency fund.
It is a school aid fund for all of our kids and all of the education. I think that whether it's going to K-12, community college, and or universities, I think that as long as we're continuing to invest in our kids' education, I think that's the right place to spend those dollars.
Senator, are you assuming there will be federal money to fix the roads in Michigan?
I never count on the federal government for a whole lot more than we already get.
So the answer is no.
I don't know where the federal dollars are going to come from other than what we already receive at the moment.
Well, your president said he wanted to do infrastructure.
I would love to see those dollars. I look forward to having them.
And if they did, then you could back off of the state funding.
I think that we want to make sure that we continue to prioritize the budget all the way across.
Senator, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have fun writing the budget.
It will be a fun time.
It will be. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. See you next week right here on Off the Record.